guys, after a chat that I had with Mr. Simon Butler, who, as you know, ended up saving Total Recall, I simply had to share this insight that he politely granted to It's a Pixel Thing after watching my Total Recall episode. Let's pick the moment when Simon resigned from Ocean Software. In one of those weekly downstairs meetings, he politely formulated the question of when was Ocean moving onto the 16-bit machines? His answer was, Ocean will not be developing 16-bit titles. Simon Butler resigned that same day. After he received that answer, he went to work at another studio to develop 16-bit titles. At the moment of his resignation, he was working on the sprites for the C64 version of RoboCop. Then Stephen Thompson stepped into the vacancy and ended up finishing and further develop all the graphics for the amazing C64 RoboCop game that we all know. So as said, after Ocean, Simon Butler went on working for a team that shortly after ran into financial problems and he found himself looking for work once again. It was during this period that he applied for a position at an unknown company in Manchester by the name Active Minds. They were new to the industry with only 2 titles in the works, Gaza 2 and Total Recall. Simon realized on day 1 that the product was doomed. No one was doing anything and the few graphics that existed were terrible. The lead artist was not in the office when Simon started at Active Minds, so he had 2 days to look at his design document, which was one of the worst things he had ever read. Simon also checked out the existing graphics and they were terrible also, so he went to the coding department. Active Minds has been working on the game for at least 2 months and had produced absolutely nothing. Something was wrong. The boss of the company thought things were proceeding fantastically and was very proud of his team. Even the producer from Ocean was strangely proud of the progress. It was when Simon Butler realized that the team did not know what they were doing, and the producer was reporting complete lies back to Gary Bracey at Ocean by saying that the game was amazing and everything was going smoothly. The lead artist finally came into the office the next week, and after a quick chat with him, Simon realized he was a complete idiot and that he was taking advantage of a boss who knew nothing about game development. He was getting paid and giving nothing in return. By the way, he was also smoking dubious things in the office and in plain sight. So because of this, he was told to leave, and if he didn't, Simon was quite prepared to call the police and report him for possession of illegal drugs and have him arrested on the spot. So he left. Simon Butler became lead artist the next day and immediately told the coding team that they could leave anytime they wanted if they didn't like the situation. The days of sitting around and doing nothing were over. It was time to really get their hands dirty and earn their salaries. Mark A. Jones was called in and started to do some graphics for the Amiga version, but it didn't work out, so Simon contacted Mark R. Jones that worked on the ZX Spectrum version that became the demo bundled with Spanish Micro Obi issue 204. Things were still not making sufficient progress. Their boss was getting in the way and the Ocean producer was making life very difficult. It was when Simon Butler attempted to explain matters to his boss at Active Minds. As Simon stated, he too was an idiot and he did not understand how much trouble he was in if this title was not completed. Simon Butler ended up resigning and immediately ran into the office of Ocean Software, where he met with Gary Bracey, informing him of the situation, but Gary told Simon that he was wrong. Ocean's producer had been giving Gary weekly updates and ensured him that the project was on schedule and looking great. Simon Butler insisted that the producer was a liar and looking to get Gary Bracey into trouble and possibly even get his job when Total Recall was not completed. Gary again said that Simon was mistaken, but even so, asked him to wait in his office while he went across to Active Minds to check himself the progress of the game. An hour later, Gary returned looking very ill and worried and asked Simon what he could do to rescue the game. Simon answered that if he allowed him to choose from Ocean coders and artists, he could promise that the game would be completed. One last condition was, if he succeeded, he would like to return to Ocean as a full-time employee. If he failed, Gary could happily escort him out of the building and never lay his eyes on him. So with a great team of experts and as confirmed by Simon Butler after this interview, they completed all 3 8-bit versions for the Christmas release. The 16-bit versions were completed after Christmas. As for Active Minds, it was the end of the road. They never worked for Ocean or anyone else again. One final question from us to Simon. 2 weeks or 3.5? Most probably nearer 3. It seemed like less, but it was a long time ago, and although it's one of those games I remember the most because of the chaos, it's still a long time ago. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Simon Butler. This came to clear so many unanswered questions. Also, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in Season 4.